see if this works. It might actually let me. Let's see here. All right. So just a heads up, like I said, I'm going to be kind of focused on the YouTube channel. If you guys are not subscribed to today's Misguided Mentors on YouTube, please do that. That way I can see your chat, and you can, if you're going to respond or anything like that, and you're trying to get my attention, I'll actually see your comment come up on my screen, and I'll be able to respond in real time. So just a heads up on that. How's it going, folks? Welcome to another episode of today's Misguided Mentors. It's good to be back. I got something that's near and dear to my heart that I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about scamming. How to scam. How is a person able to get in someone's mind? How is a person able to get in a position where they've gained someone's trust? They've gotten them to lower their guard, get them to be vulnerable so that they can then prey on that vulnerability and get them to do things that they normally wouldn't do, or get that person to do things that are against their will. Well, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk a lot about how that happens, how it can happen, the ingredients for someone to do that. Usually it's someone in a leadership position and this is in reference to the self-development space and cult-like atmospheres, cult-like organizations. And in the self-development space, there's a ton of that. So I'm going to talk about that, how it's happening, why it's happening. Some of these things happen to me. And so I'm going to talk about red flags and things to keep an eye out for. I'm going to talk about sayings that are used within the self-development space they're used to kind of reframe your thought process and adopt someone else's thoughts. And that kind of gets you down that path of making decisions that you don't really want to, or normally wouldn't do, normally wouldn't make under normal circumstances. So let's just jump right into it. So I want to talk about the first thing I want to talk about is how are people able to scam? How are people able to, because a lot of the comments I've seen on podcasts that I've done, podcasts that I've been invited to do on other people's channel is, there's a lot of backlash to people that I have empathy for, obviously, because I've been in that situation. But a lot of people make comments like, oh, well, you were greedy, so you deserve to get scammed. Or, you're an idiot. How are these idiots getting scammed? Or, this only happens to people who just are not smart. Or, there's a lot of comments like that. And usually those comments come from somebody that's never actually invested time or money into themselves, or really done have no experience with this industry. So this is more to help elaborate on this for small business owners, maybe some young entrepreneurs, because usually the scamming in the self-development space happens to those type of individuals. Now, it can happen to anybody who's super ambitious, super motivated, someone that just wants to change their mindset, someone who's looking to level up, right? Get an edge, get an advantage, those type of things. And so I'm here to tell you that it can happen to the best of people. You've heard me say this before. And I've seen it happen to the best of people. I've been in some rooms where there's some highly successful individuals that are getting scammed. And so I'm going to talk about some of these things. So the first thing that needs to happen in order for somebody to scam somebody is this individual needs to be vulnerable. The person that's looking for help, or the person that is seeking mentorship or coaching, they need to be vulnerable. Their guard needs to be dropped. And usually they have a little bit of uncertainty, maybe some fear, some doubt going on in their life or their business or something like that. And they're looking to get an answer. Usually that's what happens. They're seeking an answer. They're seeking a solution to stop that fear, to stop the doubt, to stop the uncertainty. And they're hoping that whoever they're seeking the information from is going to tell them this magic thing that's just going to cure it, or some blueprint. Or that's another thing is usually the way a person is able to scam somebody is the person that is seeking that advice from a leader, usually this leader is claiming that they have a blueprint, that they have a template, they have a playbook, they have a fast track to success, they have a solution to solve this problem. All right. And so that's very appealing. That's very, very appealing to people, especially when someone is, uncertain or has some fear going on. If someone's got a problem and then someone's claiming, I know exactly what you're going through. I had that same problem. I figured it out. I'm going to show you how to do it. Buy my course, $5,000, whatever the fucking thing is, right? And that's how it happens. That's one of the ways that happens. So, presenting it as though they have a solution, an end-all, be-all template for this problem is one of those ways, which, by the way, I'm a firm believer that, every situation is different. Every person is different. So I absolutely hate that approach, because someone who's claiming that they have a blueprint or playbook to fix your problem or take away that fear or take away that uncertainty from you, it's not realistic. And it's actually a spit in your face, because they haven't even, without even getting to know you, they think it's a very condescending, smug, arrogant way to approach that, because who are you to say that your template, your blueprint is going to help me without you even knowing anything about me, without even getting to know me as a person? It's really disrespectful. And when you think about it in that context, it's like, I guess you're right. Like, how they would need to know you first is my opinion. So I don't agree with that. Blueprints, templates, all that stuff. I'm not saying, by the way, that you can't learn something from somebody. So there's a fine line here. I'm saying you can absolutely learn from somebody. You can absolutely get information from somebody. You can definitely benefit from hearing somebody's story that may have been in the same situation as you. All I'm saying is be super protected. Make sure that interaction is not transactional. This is just a relationship you're forming. You're discerning for yourself whether this story and what they're saying helped them, applies to you in a little bit, in any way. All right, just properly discern is what I'll say in that scenario. So there's the blueprint, there's the vulnerability part. The other part is I made some notes here I got to follow, because I wanted to make sure I covered and a lot of things in this, and I also didn't skip anything and dropped a lot of value in this as well on this particular topic. So the other thing is they need to reframe your thoughts. They need to reframe your thought process. They need to speak in a way that you've never heard someone speak, and so that it resonates to you and resonates with your mind in a new way. And usually when that happens, this is all just a recipe. Going into that atmosphere with the vulnerability, the uncertainty, and now you're starting to hear somebody speak to you in a way you've never heard before. They seem like they're successful. They seem like they got the answers. They seem like they got the solution for you. It's very appealing. All right. And they're saying things like, and I'll come to the sayings now that we're talking about it, but they'll say things like, your network is your net worth. You need to get in proximity. You need to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Those who pay attention. You need to commit first, figure out the rest later. Things like that. These are all sayings, by the way, that I've actually heard several times, of not only attending events, but events I've spoken at as well. It's a common theme. These sayings just get tossed around over and over and regurgitated over and over, not just by the people who've attended, but also from leader to leader, because they realize there's a formula here that's actually working to hook people. And this is the formula. This is the most simplistic formula I've realized that they've used. So the sayings like that reframe your thought process. All right. And it gets worse. It gets a little more detailed with how these sayings actually penetrate and infiltrate your mind and your thought process. Sooner or later, you find yourself literally adopting someone else's thoughts, and you find yourself not even thinking for yourself. It's a very real thing. It happened to me, and I see it happening to people all the time. So that is a very cult-like atmosphere. This is the definition of what cults do. So what I've noticed in the self-development space is it is treated like a cult. There's a lot of cult-like similarities, direct similarities. And in the cult that I was involved in for several years, I actually come to find out that it was a repackaged spinoff of Scientology. So I know exactly what it's like to be in a cult, whether it's like a traditional cult or a self-development business cult. Cults are cults. And the formula and the steps that I'm talking about that are used to get people to do that, this is played out the same way. It's textbook, all right? Talk about blueprints and templates and playbooks. They have one, and this is some of the ways I'm talking about it. What's up, Cody? How you doing, brother? Yeah, whoa, exactly. So I want to break this down. So now you're in the room, right? You're vulnerable. You're seeking a solution. You're hoping for an answer. Now you've got yourself into the room. Maybe you heard one of those sayings, get in proximity, right? Proximity is power. That's another saying that they use. I've heard all of these, by the way, by my own mentor. Those who pay attention, get in the right rooms, all this stuff like that. Now you're in the room. Now you start hearing more sayings, right? I got to give you a little story. So my former mentor, would put on these events, and big events, thousands of people there. And before the event, man, this is crazy to think about. I even got videos of this I should start posting. But before the event, the room would be dark, and the screen, the front of the stage would be lit up with this guy just talking and repeating his quotes. Some of the quotes I just said. Your network is your net worth. Commit first, figure out the rest later. Proximity is power. They would play that on a loop, very loud, with animations and graphics and stuff going on. And so you're just absorbing this. This is prior to it even starting, right? This is like a 3-day event. In all 3 days, this is how it would start. The beginning of the day, you would hear that. Just all these sayings, this person, almost like the voice of God being on stage. It's quite crazy to think about now that I'm looking back on that. And that's also another aspect of it is what's going on there is they're kind of empowering that idolizing vibe. They're framing you and encouraging you to idolize the leader. They're encouraging you to idolize the person that's getting ready to give you the answer, the solutions, start talking. He's going to say something powerful. It's going to resonate with you. Again, I want to emphasize that you can learn from people, and there is a benefit to that. But what I'm talking about is very different. All right, this is straight up cult-like shit. So I just thought I'd share that with you because that's how it would start. It would just be a lot of, and this would be on loud, so you couldn't ignore it. You'd be trying to talk to somebody next to you, trying to, and it's so empowering and so overwhelming that it's hard to ignore. It's just literally getting implanted in your thought process. All right, so now you're in the room, you're doing that, you're reframing they're reframing your thoughts. They've already done that, by the way. This is a lot of what's happened just to get you into that room. Now you're in the atmosphere. Your thoughts have already shifted a little bit, and now you're ready to just take it all in from the person speaking, all right? Now, they get you to drop your guard when someone's speaking. A lot of the things that are said, by the way, this is my opinion. So some of it may be true, and I think some of this may be used in good, but unfortunately, a lot of this is being used for bad. And so yes, Darlene, it looks like I am in fact recording this. So I hope to God this works. If it didn't record to the platform I'm actually using, I'll figure it out. Let's put it that way. It's definitely recorded to the live stream, so don't worry about that. God, what was I saying though? Oh yes. So the relatable stories. Let me give you my opinion on this. So I've done a lot of public speaking over the last 4 years. I've done a lot of speaker competitions. I've taken 10X stages with Pete Vargas and Grant Cardone and Pat Quinn twice. And my friends, I got a couple friends who have also, they have their own speaking course program where they teach you how to speak well and like let you speak in front of people and like get the practice, like really, really cool stuff, really valuable stuff. So I've done a lot of speaking. And one thing I've noticed in the speaking industry is that you are encouraged to share stories. Um, and I don't agree with this. Stories are, I guess, meant to relate to people so that you can connect with them. And again, this example I'm saying is, yes, it could be used for good, but I think unfortunately it's being used for bad. And I'm going to explain that right now. I don't really agree with telling stories. I'll never forget when I was telling my buddy who had me come speak at one of his events in Tampa like a year ago. Um, he was like, I asked him flat out, I was like, hey man, do you think that somebody can make an impact without sharing a story? And he said no. And I was like, well, I don't agree, man. I think that that's a narrative that's been created in the public speaking industry, and I don't agree with that. And I think I can make an impact without sharing stories. And so lately, I've actually been trying to do that. The last couple events I've spoken at, I haven't really dove into story time with my public speaking. I've just kept it straight to the point, what I focus on, what I've noticed, how I help people, my opinion on stuff. It's really no different than me. I guess I just shared a story right now, but see, that was authentic though. Like it was just relevant to this. It wasn't a story to try to get people to relate to me. It was just relevant to this. And this comes to my next point. When people in public speaking are taught to tell a story, so it's usually so that they can get the audience to drop their guard. And so when someone's actually selling a course and a program and all that, and they're speaking from the stage, and they're doing it for 3 days straight, it's being used for bad. They're trying to get you to drop your guard, be vulnerable, be open-minded. And I was talking to my girlfriend a couple weeks ago, but she was talking to me about how these leaders also tell stories that are vulnerable themselves to get you to drop your guard. This is actually quite fascinating. When I think about it, she's right. And 100% that's true. My mentor would tell a lot of vulnerable stories that I thought I could resonate with him on, which is one of the reasons that I gravitated towards him. I thought he got it. I thought he understood me. I thought, we related on that level. But the truth of the matter is we didn't. And it was a false sense of vulnerability. It was only vulnerability so that he could serve himself and fulfill his agenda. And so that's what it is. So anyways, the relatable stories to drop your guard, that's another way. That's how people scam. The other thing is the idolizing. I talked about the idolizing. That's a very real thing. I see this all the time. If you pay attention, by the way, I know it's real because when I call people out or I give an opinion on somebody, on one of these leaders who I think I got a bad feeling about, I'm like, I think you're actually just trying to do this. I feel like you're, preying on people's vulnerability or whatever it is I say. All the cronies and the minions start coming out to defend him like their dad or something like that. They get really personal and offensive and defensive and start attacking me for saying my opinion, right? And in my mind, I'm just thinking like they can defend themselves. Like they're a big boy, they're a big girl. My opinion to them is meant for them. You can give your opinion also, but I'm talking about the people that just straight attack and start, getting real nasty, right? It's quite crazy. So you get people like this who get so many people to adopt their thought process that when someone like me steps up and starts saying something that it goes against what they're saying, all of a sudden people have no open mind and they get really, really pissed off because now you're challenging something that they believe in so much. And a mature and grown adult would be okay with accepting someone else's thought process and be okay with someone else's opinion and have a mature conversation. Be like, yeah, well, I don't agree with you, and that's okay. This is why I don't agree with you. I think actually this, and I think you could be confused. Like that type of conversation, that's a productive conversation. Instead, it's not met with that. It's met with like, you're this, you're that. I think you're this, you're that. Oh, you're hurt, you're disgruntled. You got ripped off, and so you think everybody's this, everybody's that. By the way, that's not the case. Just because I in my opinion, I was scammed by my mentor and deceived and all that. I think there's good mentors out there. I think there's good coaches out there. It's just rare. It is rare. And unfortunately, it's such a saturated market industry. It's such a saturated industry now, especially since the pandemic and COVID, that the majority of it is unethical leaders in the space. I'm talking like, if I had to guess, probably 90% is unethical, which makes it really hard for the 10% of good people, the ethical people, the people that actually care about helping for real and aren't just so focused on money and ego and sex and serving themselves and what they can get out of a transaction, what they can get out of a relationship. It's a very low percentage, unfortunately. And it's because of that 90% that unfortunately, that 10% of ethical leaders, they get put in a box sometimes, and you'll never know who they are because the 90% is much louder. There's a lot of rah, rah, rah. They do a lot of advertising, a lot of promoting. They get a lot of people to rally up. And in my opinion, it's all fake. It's a fake environment. It's fake confidence. It's fake leadership. It's unethical. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, cloak and dagger, bait and switch, all of that shit. And it's fake. And when you're actually operating on a higher level and you're so in touch with yourself, you can see right through that. You can see right through it. You can feel that energy. You can tell when somebody is a giver or taker. You can tell if somebody actually cares about you or if they just want something from you. And I want to talk to you about this. When you get in those environments, a lot of these networking events, the intention of it is to get something, is to conceive a relationship on deception so that they can get something from you at some point. At some point in time, it's a transactional fake relationship. And I absolutely hate that. Like, it's really terrible. And so this is all being created because of the 90% I'm talking about. So, that's how people are able to scam. Now I want to tell you something else that comes with this. So I talked about the sayings, right? And the red flags. I want to tell you about the experiences I've had and how this is happening and how people are able to scam as well. So let's go back to the sayings, right? The ones I wrote down here, I said some of them already, but let's go over them again. You've heard this a lot. Your net worth is your network, right? Heard it all the time, right? Let's talk about that one saying. Maybe I'll break these sayings down one by one. Your network is your net worth. Well, what is that for? What is that intended to do? I think the reason for that, it depends on the person too, right? Like I said, that again, these sayings could be used for good or they could be used for bad. Some of them are just not good at all. But maybe your net worth is your net work could be a good saying. I don't tend to think so. I think that saying is constructed in order to encourage you to get in the room with successful people and to meet more people that have more worth, I guess, whether it's value or it's money. And the insinuation with that statement is that if you network with people who have money or value, all of a sudden your value goes up. That's not the case. That's just simply not reality. And all that does for the 90% of unethical leaders using that statement, all that is to sell more courses, sell more programs, sell more events. That's it. It's to get you in proximity. And then you can just get in this vortex of repeating this over and over and over. When you believe something, you're going to start spending money. You believe someone has the answer for you, the solution to solve your fear and your doubts. You will do anything to make that happen. You will pay anything to make that happen. And so I want people to pay attention to that. So I don't agree with that saying. The other one is invest in yourself. This is a good saying. But it's being used for bad in so many ways. And I'm going to tell you exactly how this comes back on people. But invest in yourself is usually intended to sell you a service, sell you maybe a product, but usually it's a service. It's an intangible service like a course, like a program, like an event. All right. Invest in yourself, right? Spend the money. If you don't got $2,000 to invest in yourself to make it to this event, then you're not serious. You're not serious about investing in yourself, right? That's the narrative that's always created in the self-development space. It's fucking annoying, to be honest. So you got that one. And it's more annoying. That saying is more annoying to me because it is a good saying. I believe investing in yourself, whether it's reading books, learning, from the right people, obviously, from ethical people, spending money, investing money in the right places, not certain real estate companies. I won't mention any of those, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Um, that's why it irritates me, because that saying is a good saying, and unfortunately, that's one of the ones that's used the most in a very evil way. This whole you need to get in proximity. Let's talk about this one. You need to get in proximity. Proximity is power. I used to hear that a lot from my mentor. Proximity is power, right? Well, people who are self-serving, what do they like? Power, right? They want power. They want ego. People who are serving themselves love power and ego. And so when you're telling somebody that proximity means you're going to get more power, again, that person is going to start spending money. That person is going to start doing anything to get in the room, to get in proximity, right? Very dangerous saying. Those who pay attention. This is slick. This one's slick. This saying gets thrown around so much, by the way. I don't agree with this one. This is just a completely bad saying and not true. Those who pay don't always pay attention. I've spent money on things, lots of money on something that I just didn't have any interest in after going into it. And I didn't retain my interest in it just because I spent money on it and I paid. It's just simply not true. And it's fake. This saying is just to get you to invest in yourself and to show that you're not going to do anything unless you actually spend money. That is what that saying is for. Those who pay attention is only intended to get you to believe you're not serious about yourself and you don't care about yourself or your success or your family or your business until you start throwing money at me. Now now you've shown me that you care. It's bullshit. And that's very deceptive and very manipulative. God, I hate that saying. It's been used on me quite a bit, unfortunately. And these are all sayings I believed, by the way. And again, I expressed to you some of the sayings I think are still good, like invest in yourself. But I also elaborated on how it is used for good and not used for good. Unfortunately, right now, the majority of that is being used for bad. But yeah, those who pay attention, terrible, terrible, terrible. I hope none of you guys, I hope someone hears this and has heard somebody say that and realized that that's a terrible, very, very misleading statement. Yeah, exactly. What's up, Ben Bacon Bits? That's an awesome name. So yeah, you're saying that they're trying to borrow authority for influence. Yeah, man. They definitely are trying to get the authority for influence, and all these things, by the way, are designed to do that. So you're 100% right. Let's go down to the next one. Statements that include the word and emphasize the word need. This gets under my skin. And this is a very, very, very true and relevant thing right now. So when someone's talking to you as a leader and you're in their atmosphere already, you're thinking, they're claiming they have a template, they have a blueprint, a playbook to solve your problem, take your fears away, and take you to the promised land, scale your business, whatever that is. And they start framing statements in the way of need, and the word need gets thrown in there heavily and emphasized really hard. That is a sign of someone who is serving themselves and just trying to convince you and manipulate you to get you to do something you don't want to do. They're trying to convince you and brainwash you into thinking that you need something. Because the fact of the matter is, nobody needs anything. Like when you also, the other thing, excuse me, the other thing that bothers me is when you start talking about need, it's arrogant and it's disrespectful to talk to somebody that way, as though they can't discern for themselves what they need in their life. Who are we? Who is anybody to say you need this, you need that? Maybe you can use that statement in a more loving and a more of a receptive way. Like, well, hey, like I'll give you an example. If I was ever going to use need in that context, I would say, man, I'm not an expert, but maybe, I would decide whether or not that you may need something like this in your life. And I wouldn't even, this isn't in regards to me selling anything. Like if I was selling something, I would never personally use the word need, because it's just disrespectful. And it's very manipulative. So, yeah. What's dialed in? Let's see. I gotta respond to your comment. You said when is the lowest form of communication? Victim mentality, teaching and preaching this pity party, new age male Karen. Oh, you're a hater. Okay, that's no problem, man. So yeah, there's no pity party, but first of all, reframe that statement so that I can actually address you like a human being and a mature adult, and then maybe I'll actually give you the time of day to talk about my thoughts on your comment. But yeah, and I hope I didn't misunderstand you, but it seemed like it was a hate comment. But anyways, the whole need thing, like, again, that's all framed to have you seeking somebody else for the answers, seeking somebody else for success, for that blueprint I was talking about. So, let's talk about one more thing that really bothers me. So it's, and by the way, Aaron, bro, thanks for the comments on Instagram. I'm going to encourage you to, if you have not followed my Today's Misguided Mentors YouTube channel, jump on there, because that's where I'm actually able to see the comments and I'll be able to actually address that. I just happen to look over and catch that. But follow my page and jump on the live, man, so I can actually address you and interact with you and engage with you, brother. So I want to talk about something that really, really bothers me, and I see a lot of people doing this. Stockholm Syndrome. A form of Stockholm Syndrome. So you got a lot of these dudes who are all jacked up on steroids, and they're kind of, framing that their life is everything it is because they're in shape and they're fit, and somehow that attributes to sales and business and the growth of all that. Now, you got people that's all meant to shame you. By the way, this is not only done in the fitness industry, but it's also done in the bank account area, like people trying to shame people because they're not making, $500,000 a year or something to that nature. And so where the Stockholm Syndrome comes into play with this arrangement is that when someone is trying to shit on your physique, when someone's trying to say you're fat or you're broke, your bank account's low, and then they're like, I have the answer for you. All you got to do is spend $2,000 or $5,000 with me, and I'm going to change that for you. And then if you don't, obviously they start shaming you and all that. Then they start saying, this is where the Stockholm Syndrome comes in. They start saying, dude, I'm telling you this because I care about you. I'm telling you because I care. First of all, that is not the way to uplift people. Telling somebody they're fat is not the way to uplift them. And I've heard so many, you guys have heard me call certain individuals out who do this. And I've heard so many people do this where they're like, I'm telling you this because I care. Not only that, the people that are in your life that are not telling you this, they don't care about you. And it's complete bullshit. And now they're framing it in a way that they're the only person that cares about you. Damn, talk about a setup. Talk about a layup to making themselves be idolized by you. If they're the only person that cares about you, you should probably put your focus into them. You should probably spend that $5,000 with them, right? Of course, because they're gonna take your dream. They're gonna fulfill your dreams. They're gonna take you to the promised land. They're gonna solve all your problems. They're gonna get you in shape. They're gonna get you jacked. They're gonna get you ripped. They're gonna get your bank account up. All that shit. Yeah. Yeah. So. Okay, Ben's Bacon Bits. What's up, brother? I thought it was the other person. Yeah, seen it in the total quality management, like Six Sigma. I'm guessing those are personal, like self-development type organizations, or probably it sounds like a cult for sure. Thanks, man. You like these examples exactly. I lived these examples, dude. Like. Every single one of these examples I have went through in the self-development space, which is why I'm talking about it. And there's a couple on here that I haven't went through, but I've seen and I see it. It's just a recurring thing that's coming up because I follow a lot of these people. This is, something I'm passionate about and something I'm helping people with. So the Stockholm Syndrome, it's a very real thing. Saying someone's fat, saying they're broke, and then saying that I'm telling you this because I care about you. And no one cares about you in your life. I care about you. That is one of the most powerful ways to manipulate somebody, to take advantage of them. And by the way, how do you scam somebody? Let me go back to it. You deceive them. You manipulate them. You interrogate them. You harass them. You shame them. These are all ingredients that frame it so that a person and an unethical leader and a lost leader with false confidence can get you. This is how they prey on your vulnerability. And in the self-development space, if you're not prepared, you are going to be preyed on. It's a very predatory atmosphere. And again, I'm not saying that it's all of them, but I did give you my opinion that I think 90% of them are that way. And unfortunately, 10% are actually ethical. So if 90% of these self-development cult-like atmospheres are predatory, don't you think there needs to be somebody talking about this? Don't you think there needs to be someone, a resource to provoke thoughts, to prepare somebody before they get involved with this, before they get scammed, before they get taken advantage of? Because I'm telling you right now, families, I mean, I went through some shit. I've had some losses because of this arena, because of some decisions, bad business decisions that ended up being bad life decisions I went through. Businesses are being, closed. Families are being hurt. Money is being taken. And again, these are people who make the decision, yes, but and they hold, people should hold themselves accountable too. I hold myself accountable for the money I've spent and the poor decisions I made. That doesn't mean I'm going to disregard what I think actually happened on the receiving end. Yes, I played a part. Yes, I contributed. Yes, I was one of the players in that engagement, and I ultimately did make the decisions. But man, brainwashing is a real thing. Manipulation is a real thing. That doesn't excuse, me or the person. It's just stuff I'm bringing to light. And so I'm just bringing it to light so people can discern. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm not here to convince anybody to have an opinion about somebody specific. I'm not here to convince anybody to think of me as a certain way. I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm here to talk and have people that take interest in what I talk about discern for themselves. That's it. So what's the last thing? The last thing I want to talk about, but I want to address Cody's here. So tokens of status leveraged to make you feel insecurity and therefore dependent on them as a caregiver and a provider, thus trapping you in the mentality that you have a dependent relationship with them. 100%, dude. It's the definition, that whole Stockholm syndrome thing I was just talking about. It's the definition of codependency, right? It sounds like a codependent relationship. It's no different. And I'm assuming you're talking about the Stockholm syndrome approach that some of these unethical leaders are using, right? 100%. Again, when I talk about it again, you got someone here that's saying, you're fat, you're broke. Nobody cares because they're not telling you this. I care. And now all of a sudden, this person's the only person that cares. And like you said, they're the provider, they're the caregiver, and this is a very codependent relationship. You need to rely on me now because I'm the only one who cares. It's fucking bullshit, is what it is. All right, so what's up, Dialed In? Thanks for responding again. So, okay, you said, I take it back. I taking accountability is the first step in moving forward, not a victim, more just a male All right. That's not worth engaging with. I do agree. Accountability is the first step, and it's definitely the first step people should always take and always look at in any situation. We're not even talking about the business aspect of it, whether we're talking about a business, mentorship, coaching, or a partnership relationship with your spouse. Accountability is definitely the first step. So we agree on something there. Yeah, so Ben Bacon Bitch, you're saying like commercials love to use some variation of you aren't happy yet and to get you to compare yourself to others. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And in this case, the leader, the guru, likes to get you to compare yourself to them, right? They're successful. They're on the private jets. They're on the yachts. they're doing events, they're speaking, they're on podcasts, they're idolized, right? And so they're teaching you to glorify money, sex, and ego while they're doing it. And they in doing that, you start comparing yourself to them. And by the way, this is all in tandem with all these the formula that I went through on people, how people scam each other with the vulnerability, appearing as though they have the blueprint. I didn't even talk about this aspect. So maybe I'll talk about this before I talk about this last red flag and this last, it's a red flag actually. But another way people are able to scam and get in someone's head and prey on people is the fitting in with a room of like-minded people. This is powerful. So being in a room with a lot of people who have the same mentality as you, who are all rawing, all idolizing the same person like a freaking god. There's a lot of powerful energy, whether it's good or bad. There's a lot of power in that. And it's very attractive. Going back to that again, it can be very, very enticing, very, very attractive. And you'll gravitate towards that because I think that's preying on people's biological feeling of fitting in. You know, there's probably a science to that. You know, we as humans, much like animals, there's some solitary animals, but there's a lot that roam in packs. They roam in a community. And you'll get rooms that are filled with thousands of people. I've been in these rooms. I've been to these events. And there's just thousands of people all feeding on the same energy, all there to do the same thing. And that's very powerful. And it got me to spend more money. There's a lot of reasons why, but this contributed 100%. Feeling like I was part of an elite group. Feeling like I was part of the people, the 1%, the people that don't normally think this way. By the way, this ended up leading, this whole fitting in aspect led to me treating people that I care about in my life like shit, kind of, and looking down on them. Family members, friends, I would think that I'm better than them because I had my own business, right? Multiple businesses. I've taken risks. I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in myself. And I would think, oh, because you haven't done that, like, who are you to speak to me on this topic? Or, you're just not living your dream and, you gave up and you threw in the towel. Like, I would really, really judge people with this mentality and fitting in, being a person that was worried about fitting in with the elites, contributed to that, unfortunately. And I'm ashamed of that I was brought to that point, I've actually talked to some certain individuals who I had that conversation with, and it let them know, like, hey, dude, I'm sorry. That was not me. That was not who I really am. I lost myself, and, I'm here. Welcome back. So it's a scary thing. So fitting in a room is definitely, like I said, that event I explained to you where the big event my mentor did where he would be playing on a screen and they're just repeating all his quotes that would just get penetrated in your head. That's part of all that fitting in a room with everybody else who's feeding on that same energy and that atmosphere. And it just keeps going. So now when it comes to break time or the end of the event and you got sales reps, now's where the real, this is how you scam. All the things I just talked about takes time. And this is a long process, but it works for them. Apparently it worked on me and it works a lot of people, a lot, millions, which is why people are successful at scamming. It's unfortunate because people can, the best of people can be scammed. So it's very unfortunate. But now what is this for? Why do people scam? Well, they position themselves so that they can be better, have a better chance of selling something or better chance of serving their agenda. Usually it's selling something. The biggest deceiver and the biggest temptation on the planet seems to be money and ego, those two things, but they kind of flip-flop. Money serves the ego. It usually does. for unethical people anyways. And unethical leaders more specifically. So now you went to the event, you got your mind, your thought process has changed. You've adopted someone else's thought process. And now you've heard all the sayings, you've been in the room, you got the fitting in, all that energy going on, and now everything's dying down. And now all of a sudden it's time to kick back, relax, have some drinks with people, and having drinks, by the way, is not the best time to be making business decisions or spending lots of money, thousands of dollars. But that's the time where these sales reps come preying like vultures, dude. This is the type of atmosphere I experience. Having a couple drinks, getting a little loose after just being brainwashed and drilled for 3 days straight. And now someone's trying to come up to you. And the reason why I wanted to go over all the sayings is because now I want to talk to you about how these sayings are thrown back at you and used against you. All right. So now someone's trying to sell me a $20,000 program. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy, man. I got to think about it. That's a lot of freaking money. And now when I say that to the sales rep, they start throwing all those sayings back to me. Well, you got to invest in yourself, man. Like, don't you think you got to invest in yourself? Well, yeah, I got to invest in myself, but that's kind of a big investment, $20,000. And so they start throwing more at me, right? Well, those who pay attention, right? Those who want to change have to change first. Like all these sayings, like if they're selling me something to get in a mastermind or something that's going to get me close to people who are successful, they're going to use that on me too. Proximity is power, man. Like what's it worth to you to be successful? All these sayings get thrown right back in your face, and that's intended to shame you. This is where the shame comes in. And now they make you look bad, like, because nobody wants to seem like they're not serious, or they don't care about their business, or they don't care about their well-being, or they don't care about this. And so now you got the pressure of that. Now you got the pressure of fitting in because you see other people making the purchases and being brainwashed, right? And then you got the simple factor. People don't talk about this enough. I was about to do an Instagram post on this topic. Now you got the simple factor of just people having a hard time saying no. You guys ever notice that? A lot of people of all ages just have a really, really fucking hard time saying no. And usually when someone says no, they got to follow it up with some type of explanation and start rambling on. It's really hard for people to just say no and that's it. Like, I will encourage you to start saying no. That's a whole other thing, but that also contributes to that. These sales reps are master manipulators. They understand that the majority of people have a hard time saying no. And so now they're going to shame you. Now they're going to throw all the shit back in your face that they thought you were learning. In their mind, they're trying to assume and insinuate that, like, what, you just sat here for 3 days learning all this, and you still don't believe it, huh? You still don't actually think this is going to help you. They're trying to, there's an insinuation that you're a fake. You don't actually care. If you don't spend this $20,000, you're a phony. You're just like the rest of the average people. Average gets thrown around quite a bit too. Being average is like a cancer to people. All right. Like being average is like, looked down on in the self-development space. It's quite funny. Let me catch up on some of these comments here. Nobody else had their home destroyed. Nobody deserved to have their home destroyed. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then Ben, that was Darlene. And then Ben was saying, yeah, this is an event that happens to all sorts of people, whether they are scammed or not. Exactly. This isn't just in this context. This happens in life in many, many scenarios. Deal first, drink after. Good advice. 100%. Again, the events I was drinking, I was all free alcohol, right? I mean, it's really attractive. It's just like a casino. They're giving you free drinks to keep you there. Could make a scammer bingo bollocks card with these terms. This is a great idea, man. That's actually a really good idea. No is the complete sentence. Exactly. And so, yeah, we can't emphasize that enough. Practice saying no. Be good at it. And don't think that you have to explain yourself. Like, it's okay to say no. And unfortunately, a lot of people have a hard time saying no, which gets them in a lot of trouble. All right, Cody, you were saying, so I have a question. what are some alternatives to these things that you can say to yourself and others if their NLP brainwashes towards these manipulative, unethical? What are some good, helpful things you can say to undo the brainwashing? So this is something I've been working on, and this is something I actually help with. I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the things, ironically, I'm going to be making courses and programs. The difference between me is I'm ethical, and the way I do business is so pure and so unslimy and unpressury. Yeah, I'm going to be putting out a course that helps people like myself that have came from learning the unethical business practices and the way to actually sell and do business. I'm going to help that person deconstruct those old ways and focus on the right ways. I'll tell you this, Cody. Let me give you this nugget, because this is actually going to take a long time to answer that question. But what I will say is, for the people that are, I guess, in order to navigate that, you got to understand what a ethical and healthy sales process or interaction should look like. And this is my opinion. I think there's only 3 things a person should do. You give them a good experience. Again, this doesn't have to be sales. This can be like if you're dating somebody. You give them a good experience. You answer any and all questions that come up, and you give them all the information that is needed. And that is it. And if someone has to think about something, maybe you could ask them if it's okay if you follow up with them and be like, well, how much time do you think you need? Would it be okay if I reached out to you in a week or something like that? You think that'd be enough time? And if they say yes, then okay, I'll do that. If they say no, then you leave them alone. Like, it's not a big deal. So anyways, that's my three things that I've noticed have changed. And it's funny because I started my first construction company basically doing that. And then I started gravitating away from that and started learning my mentor's unethical ways of doing that. Yes, I made some sales doing that, but it didn't feel good. And that was the shift I noticed, is it wasn't in alignment with me. Pressuring somebody, asking hard questions over and over, interrogating, harassing, shaming, all that shit was just never me, man. And it's not the majority of people, to be honest. The only reason people sell like that is because they're convinced and manipulated. That's how you need to do it to grow your business. So, like the whole "you need sales to grow your business" is a rhetorical statement. No shit, dude. No shit, you need sales. But you don't need to do what people are claiming needs to be done in order to get that sale. And usually it's deceive, manipulate, shame, interrogate, harass, bully, to getting business. And that's unfortunately the ways I was taught away from my ethical ways, and I had to get back to it. So I went through a whole cycle, and that's something I'm going to start helping people out with, is how can we deconstruct those old ways and present you with new ways to carry yourself in sales and business and in life, like you were saying, Cody. All right, the last thing I want to talk about here is a red flag. The other thing I've noticed that unethical leaders are starting to do is, this is a slippery slope of a topic right now, but I've noticed this. They are leaning on God and Bible verses. I was talking to one of my friends online, and we were talking about this very specific topic. We were basically saying that, like, I've noticed a lot of these self-serving entrepreneurs quoting scriptures, leaning on, talking about their faith with God and preaching. A lot of them just start inserting it later on after years of doing this. And it's like, I feel like what has happened is they've exhausted the marketplace. They've exhausted people that they're able to scam. And this is a whole new market that they can tap into. Preying on people's faith is a whole new level of evil and deception that is being carried out right now. Call them false prophets, whatever. But I think it's just one of the most terrible things to do, because faith is a vulnerability itself. Being faithful requires vulnerability. And so to have people prey on someone's faith, their vulnerable faith, to serve themselves, for their agenda, for money and their ego, that's just flat out fucked up, in my opinion. And I cannot believe that they do that, but it's really sad to see. I see so many people doing this, and I don't think everybody's perfect, right? The people that are claiming they follow God, they have faith and all that. I'm not trying to turn this into a religious channel, but just for the record, I believe in God. I'm not religious, though. I don't identify with any religion, so I think it's important for people to know that. But I do have a personal relationship, and that's just my opinion. That's not even my opinion. It's because of experiences I've had that will blow people's mind. They wouldn't even, some of these stories I have, you wouldn't even believe me. But I had some things happen to me over and over and over and over and over that validated to me what I should be believing in and what I should lean into. And I don't really force that or preach that unless, sometimes in private conversations I do that. But I most certainly don't do it in business as much as these guys do. And not only that, the reason I brought that up is because the people that claim they walk with God or they try to live their life like God, they I don't expect them to be perfect, but I do pay attention to their actions and their behavior, and I've noticed it's far from the way, if you believe in God, it's far from the way God would actually want you to behave. Let's put it that way. So going back to what I said without going down a rabbit hole of religion or faith, there's a lot of people doing this, bringing up the God. And I said this when I wrote the Misguided Mentor rap song that I wrote. What did I say? God first in your bio doesn't make you holy, right? And I said a couple other things, but they'll put that in their bio. They'll lead with it. They'll start doing scriptures and verses on their posts and stuff like that. It's phony. It's bullshit. I'm not saying all of them, but the majority of them are using this for personal gain. And it's terrible. And it's a tragedy to see that. So yeah, let me get to some of these last comments, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Maybe they do have to do that because their program sucks. Darlene, you're 100% right. Well, not only does their program sucks, but they've exhausted. Usually when you're scamming somebody, it's a one-hitter quitter. It's like a one-hit wonder band that's out there, right? They got one kick-ass song and you don't hear from them again. It's like you got to get it while the getting's good. It's like the deadliest catch, right? You're I guess that's a terrible reference for me as a vegan, but trying to get the majority of everything while it's hot. And so that's what they do. It's a gold rush. And then Cody, you were saying in the Bible, Jesus drove out people buying and selling in the temple, saying, "Make not my Father's house a house of merchandise." He did this to restore the temple's original purpose. Yes, I've heard that story, and it's quite fascinating. There's actually a lot of, we won't get into it, but I love that story. Let's put it that way. I've never read the Bible either, by the way. So I like when people share stories like that with me. And then Ben, you were saying, yes, it's sad. It's like how narcissists use those who are empathetic as targets, and a lot of people love and use ethics and personal relationships with the religion as attack vectors. 100%, dude. Well said. And it's exactly what's going on. And like I said, it's mainly because it's a sense of vulnerability, and it's a doorway. It's another avenue to exhaust. And it's really, really sad to see. So I want to point that out. Again, I hope this was very helpful. That was the last thing I wanted to cover on this. But, we talked about a lot. I talked about a lot. And, I appreciate the engagement too, because a lot of this engagement is this is to help people, right? And an engagement with, Ben, Cody, Darlene, a couple other people, even, what was his name? I don't remember his name. That shows me you guys are, you're with it. This is something I can't do myself. Like, I'm just one person, which is why, to get this message out there, it's going to require, a community, ironically. But it's going to require more reach, right? And that's why I like, I'm just one person, doesn't have a huge following, but that's why I really like John Leisure when he was going through that thing with Grant Cardone. I liked that because he's a guy that has a voice and a huge following and very, very notable. He has notoriety, he's credibility. Same thing for Gary Brecka. The fact that Gary Brecka is speaking out about his experience is a good thing because it brings awareness to the situation, and he's using his huge following to do that. He's a credible guy. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when a 5-star general claims that he's seen a UFO, right? Like, for the people that don't believe in UFOs and aliens, right? If you hear someone that has that is been in the Air Force for 30 years, he's a 5-star general, very credible guy, has no reason to lie. All of a sudden, he says he's seen a UFO. It's at least going to get your attention. It's at least going to get you to listen to what he has to say, because you're like, well, he doesn't seem like a liar. I mean, he's a very credible guy. He's a stand-up dude. He's serviced, and why would he lie? It gets you to really pay a little more closer attention. So I like that not only I'm doing this, and I've taken the reins on this and taken a stand on this, but I like that guys like Gary Brecka, who have a huge following, are doing it because it's going to get a lot more reach and impact more people. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate that. Good to see everybody on here. I'm going to wrap this one up, and I will catch you guys next time on today's Misguided Mentors podcast. Take care, all right? All right, what's up, Instagram? Let me get back to you. Let's see here.